The moment you think it's just about you showing up, that's exactly where you're wrong. Because when you enter her space, her world doesn't just notice you. It reacts in ways you probably never even considered, and what she feels in that instant can quietly decide everything that happens next. You assume it's simple. You walk in, you say something, maybe you smile, maybe you try to impress her, but here's what most men don't realize. Before you even speak, she has already started feeling something about you. Not thinking, feeling. And that feeling isn't random. It's fast, subtle, and deeply wired. Here's where it gets interesting. When you enter her presence, the very first thing she experiences isn't attraction or rejection, it's awareness. A sharp, almost instinctive shift where her attention locks onto your energy. Not your clothes, not your words, not even your face at first. Your energy. Can you feel that? Most men can't. They're too busy performing. But she's observing, quietly. And in that moment, she's asking herself something she may never say out loud. Does your presence feel calm, or does it demand attention? Because there's a difference. A man who tries too hard creates pressure. A man who is grounded creates curiosity. And curiosity is where everything begins. You might think she's judging you, but it's deeper than that. She's sensing you. The way you carry yourself, the way you take up space, the way you look around the room without seeking approval. These small details hit her emotionally before they ever reach logic. Pay attention to this part. If your presence feels rushed, she feels slightly tense. If your presence feels steady, she feels slightly safe. And that sense of safety doesn't mean comfort in a boring way. It means emotional openness. It means her guard lowers just a little. That's the first door, and most men never even realize it exists. Now here's the twist. When she starts to feel safe, her mind doesn't relax completely. It becomes curious. She begins to wonder who you are beneath the surface. Not what you do, not what you say, but who you are when you're not trying. And this is where many men lose the moment. Because instead of letting that curiosity build, they rush in with words, jokes, or forced charm. They try to fill the silence, not understanding that silence is where her imagination starts working. And imagination is powerful. When you don't over-explain yourself, she starts creating her own version of you. And if your presence has already made her feel something positive, that version becomes intriguing. Here's what most men don't realize. She doesn't fall for what you show. She leans into what she feels when she's around you. So when you enter her space, she's not asking, is he impressive? She's asking, how do I feel right now? And that answer is everything. Now let's go deeper. There's a subtle emotional shift that happens when your presence feels different from the rest. Not louder, not flashier, just different. More controlled, more aware, less reactive. It creates contrast. And contrast creates attention. Imagine a room full of noise. And then suddenly, there's someone who doesn't need to compete. Someone who seems comfortable without proving anything. That energy stands out instantly. And she feels it. Not consciously at first, but emotionally. It pulls her attention back to you, even when she tries to focus elsewhere. And that's when something else begins. Anticipation. Yes, anticipation. She starts wondering if you'll approach her, if you'll speak, if you'll notice her the way she noticed you. And the longer that anticipation builds, the more emotionally invested she becomes without even realizing it. This is where it gets really interesting. If you move too quickly, you break the tension. If you wait too long, you lose the moment. But if you move with calm certainty, you step directly into that emotional space she's been building. And when that happens, the interaction feels natural, effortless, almost like it was meant to happen. But it wasn't luck. It was timing mixed with emotional awareness. Now think about this. When you finally speak to her, she's not hearing your words in isolation. She's hearing them through the feeling she already has about you. That means the same sentence can feel completely different depending on how you made her feel before saying it. Let that sink in. Your words don't create the moment. Your presence prepares it. And when your presence is right, Even simple words feel meaningful. But when your presence is off, even the best lines fall flat. That's why some men can say very little and still create attraction, while others say everything and feel ignored. It's not about effort, it's about emotional impact. Now here's something most men overlook completely. When you're around her, she's not only feeling you, she's feeling herself around you. And this is one of the most powerful dynamics you can understand. Because if she feels more relaxed, more confident, more like herself when you're there, she starts associating you with that feeling. And people are drawn to what makes them feel better about themselves. So when you enter her space and your presence allows her to feel at ease without pressure, she begins to open up naturally. Not because you forced it, but because your energy made it easy. And ease is rare, especially in a world where everyone is trying too hard. Now let's flip the perspective for a second. Imagine you walk into a room and instantly feel judged, evaluated, or ignored. You become slightly tense, slightly guarded. You think more, you feel less. That's exactly what happens when your presence carries insecurity or neediness. She feels it, even if she can't explain it. And that feeling quietly pushes her away. Not dramatically, not obviously. Just enough to close the emotional door you didn't even know you were approaching. So, what's the difference? Awareness. When you become aware of how your presence affects her emotional state, everything changes. You stop focusing on what to say, and you start focusing on how to be. Calm, present, unforced. And that shift alone separates you from most men. Because most men are trying to be liked. Very few are simply allowing themselves to be felt. Here's where it all connects. When you enter her world with a grounded presence, you trigger 3 key feelings: safety, curiosity, and emotional ease. And those 3 together create a powerful foundation for attraction. Not surface-level attraction, real attraction. The kind that builds naturally instead of being forced. And once that foundation is there, everything else becomes smoother. Conversations flow. Eye contact lingers. Smiles feel genuine, not because you mastered techniques, but because you understood the moment. Now here's the final layer most men never reach. When she consistently feels good around you, she starts looking forward to your presence. Not because of what you do, but because of how she feels when you're there. And that anticipation becomes emotional attachment over time. Slow, subtle, but powerful. So the next time you think it's about impressing her when you walk in, remember this. She's not watching for perfection. She's feeling for authenticity. And the way you make her feel in those first few moments will echo through every interaction that follows. So instead of asking, "What should I say?" start asking, "What does my presence communicate before I speak?" Because that's where the real connection begins. And once you understand that, you stop chasing reactions and start creating experiences she won't forget. If you pay attention to nothing else, remember this one thing. The strongest impact you'll ever have isn't in what you show her, but in what she quietly feels when you're simply there.